Hey everybody, Sonika and Christian is here behind the slide you'll see in here.
Hi, everybody.
Like it says, hang tight. The webinar will officially start shortly. As you might see, you have a chat window somewhere on your phone or your computer, depending on how you're watching this. And I'm wondering if you guys can hear me. Send us a chat if you can hear us. All right.
All right.
Hey everyone, I'm sending a chat.
All right, they can hear us.
All right. You can hear us now. Awesome. We're so glad you're here, everybody.
Well, welcome to tonight's call. We're going to talk about how to be madly in love again without rehashing the past or pointing fingers.
Wouldn't it be cool if you could figure out how to reliably do that over and over and over again?
So that's what we're going to be devoting this webinar to.
Yep, and here we're going to tell you, for those of you who are on, welcome. And if you just clicked in here, welcome to the webinar, How to Be Madly in Love Again Without Rehashing the Past or Pointing Fingers. We're going to share some great tools and tips and stories of people who have done this before you and what they did. And we hope you'll stick with us till the end here. At the very end, we're going to tell you a really interesting story about this couple who were an absolute marriage disaster in the making. They'd been absolutely disconnected for probably a decade, and they had already pretty much called it quits. And we're going to share with you the two really significant changes they made to turn this almost disaster into a hot, sexy love story that is still going on to this day. So stick with us till the end. We'll share that story with you then. And until then, for those of you who don't know who we are, we'll give a brief intro of who we are here, and then we'll jump right in. So who's talking to you here? This is the quick snapshot of us as a couple.
So we've been together 14 years, married 11. We are running a multiple six-figure business together. We've been doing that since 2010. And we have had a lot of challenges in our little bit of time together.
Yeah,
here.
just really just to say that, there's nothing, it's not that we're blessed with some kind of magic that has us float through life without challenges, by no means. So how we started out was we had a very long distance relationship. I'm from Denmark. Sonika lived in California at the time we met. And we did that for about 2.5 years. So you can imagine that comes with its own set of challenges. There's a 15-year age gap between Sonika and I. When we met, Sonika already had 2 young kids. I'm now the stepdad. So we live with the challenges of, step parenting, of blended family. We co-parent with Sonika's ex, and the whole host of challenges that come with all of those
Having
things.
our kids have time.
Right?
And as it says there, we lost everything in the recession. So in 2008, we almost went bankrupt. We lost a bunch of rentals. We lost a bunch of money in a Ponzi scheme. We risked losing our house to foreclosure. So we have definitely had our fair share of financial troubles and
health troubles alike. Just like many other people, we've had serious troubles too. Just the last couple of months, I've been going through back surgery and not being able to work properly, and Sonika having to take a bunch of the heavy load around here, which again comes with a whole host of challenges just by itself. And many of you who are well enough from having been in relationship in your life that either of those challenges, health or long distance or money, all of those can break down relationships if you don't know how to deal with it, and if you're not solid with each other. All right, so here, just a couple of bullets about our credentials, I guess. Here, I'll talk for you.
Okay.
How about that?
All right.
Sonika, she's one of the most well-educated people you've ever met. She's has a Master of Social Works and 3 other degrees. She's got a BA in both psychology sexuality, and sociology. She's got 40 plus years experience, both designing and leading. We wrote 1,000 plus. I don't know. It could be 5,000, honestly, for you. I don't even know at this point.
I know. I never took time to count.
Yeah, I know. Workshops that all have to do with sex, intimacy, relationship, communication, creating a powerful life for yourself. Sonika is a true master. And for all these 40 years, you've also had a private practice of seeing both couples and individuals as private coaching clients.
I actually got all my hours too to become a licensed therapist, and opted to not go that route because I didn't quite subscribe to the whole therapeutic model. I much more resonated with an educational model, which is much more what our work is about. But I've got all of that experience as well. So Christian has a GIS degree. What does that
You probably don't even know
stand
that
for?
means.
No, I don't. What does that stand for?
Geographical Information Systems. It's like fancy computer stuff.
Okay. He was actually getting his degree to be a city planner, which has absolutely nothing to do with what he's doing now.
Yeah, I know.
He is a certified life coach. What's that? Oh, it says Christian life coach. He's
I'm
a
not
certified life
my
coach.
name is Christian, and
He is an Amazon best-selling author of the book How to Win with Your Woman. He's been designing and leading hundreds of workshops for the past 12 years. And both of us are certified mediators. We've got all kinds of certifications to our name, and we're expert coaches. So we've been doing this for a really long time. I just turned 60 6 months ago, and I've been doing relationship trainings and work since I was in my 20s. So we have been doing this for a very long time, and really our best credential is our own marriage is phenomenal. I mean, we have the best marriage. We hardly ever fight. When we have conflicts, we resolve them really fast. We complete stuff that arises rather quickly, so we never have to have the same fight twice. We have a very active, delightful sex life, and we have a great relationship with my ex, extraordinary relationship with our kids, and we use everything that we're teaching you here. And I will say, as somebody who has been relationship centered my whole life, and Christian, who hasn't been relationship centered his whole life, is that both of us had to learn how to create great relationships. It did not come naturally to either of us. We have our many teachers and mentors and trainers that we have worked with as well, that we are riding on, actually, on all that
standing on their shoulders.
Yeah. And we now have the privilege and luxury of being able to pass that on to other people, and have had thousands and thousands of singles and couples come through our programs.
Yeah, and I can honestly and genuinely say that we've been together for a long time, and we're genuinely still in love, and we never ever once rehash the past or point fingers at each other. We just don't go there anymore. And like you saw in the beginning, it's not like we don't have challenges. We just know a different, new way to deal with those, and we'll share as much as we can in this next little bit with you. So I sent you, I don't know if you saw the email we sent out yesterday, where I sent a picture of here, I'll show you on the next slide here, of this naked couple vacuum cleaning. And it was just so pertinent. It literally arrived in our mail yesterday as we were, contemplating and planning for this webinar. The couple you see there on the screen is Mary and Mark. When we first met Mary and Mark, they were going to give up. They'd been married for 27, 8 years at the time. They had two older teenagers. Mary had already written out on a piece of paper how she was going to make it financially when they split up. That's how close it was.
And she basically gave him an ultimatum.
Which was, you better deal with your anger, your addictions, or we ain't making it. Because, they had all kinds of challenges, and they'd been feeling disconnected and consumed with anger and fighting for many, many years. And she just sent us the little, I don't even know what you call that thing, plaque maybe, that you see on the right there. She sent that to us as a gift of gratitude yesterday in the mail, along the card I'll show you in a moment here. It says, great love and great achievements involve great risk, said the Dalai Lama. And for them, they had great love, but they just had no idea how to break through addiction and anger and disconnect and dysfunctional sexual life. And they had one of their friends kept pestering them about, you got to go do this workshop. You just go do this, give yourself to love workshop, which is the workshop that we do, the first workshop that we do. And at some point, Mary was like, okay, we'll do it. All right, it will be the last thing we try. And by the end of that first day in the Give Yourself to Love workshop they came to, Mary stood up and said, oh, maybe it was the second day, I can't remember, but she stood up and said, we've been doing a lot of traditional work, counseling style work on our relationship, and it's always felt like such hard work. She said it's like been going through the darkness, but there wasn't ever really a light at the end of the tunnel. Just by being here this weekend, I'm having the realization that we can work on our relationship and we can have a good time
while we're doing it.
Right? While we're doing it, we can actually go for connection and intimacy now, not necessarily once we've solved all of our dysfunctions. So this is now, I don't know when we met them, 5 years ago maybe, and she sent us this. They sent us this plaque, and then the card here. I don't know if you can read it on the screen. You probably can. The top text is what the card had written on it. Which is a little joke, but what she wrote down there is really important.
You should read that too.
All right, cool. I'll read it. It says, the couple here, they attributed their successful relationship to clean living, good communication, and of course, the exotic vacuum dance. And Mary added, did they go to LoveWorks to learn to think outside the box? I think so. Thanks for introducing me to being open-minded about doing things in new and different ways. Love you both. And that's really significant because the work they did with us in the workshops is they not only did they save their marriage doing that, but they also used it to basically transform the rest of their life experience. Since then, they both had dreams of doing other jobs. So they now got different jobs. They moved into the city, and Mary here she just sent along in the letter we received yesterday, she was telling us of the new career she's taken on, where she's working with high at-risk families in new moms in one of the cities in the Bay Area. It's rough work, but she's equipped now. And they've done all this using their relationship as a platform, adding in all these new tools that they learned with our workshops.
One of the things that they did that is pretty typical in relationship is that we believe when we are having a hard time in a relationship that we got to work on our problems first. And once we figure out all of the breakdowns and all of the problems and we talk about them and we work them out, then we'll be able to go where we want to go. And unfortunately, we have actually discovered that both from personal experience that unfortunately didn't work, as well as from our coaching other people, that the more you talk about your problems, the more you try to work them through, the worse things get. So we actually kind of call this, I'm sorry, I thought this next one.
Oh, here, well, I'm being too fast on the.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were going to go to that other place. Sorry, this is our first time doing this.
Yeah.
Hang out.
Bear with us while we sort it out.
Yeah, so basically, for a lot of people, this whole rehashing the past comes from us believing that we have to go back and talk about our problems before we can go forward. And one of the things we really do in our work is that we don't see that it's necessary at all to go backwards. It's only important to go forwards. And to go forwards, we need to be able to create what we want, to know what we want, and to keep our eyes set on what the experiences are we want to create, who we want to be, what kind of couple we want to be, what we want to cultivate for ourselves. And when we're in that creative space, we feel much more powerful, we feel much more connected, and we feel much more possibility and hope. And it is a completely different way to do relationship improvement from. And that is exactly what happened with Mary and Mark, is that in the process of working with us, instead of going back and rehashing, they found that by focusing in on what they wanted to create going forward, a lot of those problems got taken care of without them having to focus in on them at all.
Yeah, and here we'll share you another story that's really to say that, it's never too late. No, excuse me. No matter where you are, it's not too late. And the couple you're seeing on the screen is Laura and Machen. And, Laura and Machen they had already, by the time we met, actually Machen first, the gentleman there, by the time we met him, they had already separated and had been separated for about 9 months. They had the kids half time. He had found a different apartment. And really it was from Machen, what created an opening was from Machen thinking, well, okay, I don't know, maybe we won't be able to solve our problems, but I don't want to keep having this experience going forward. So he did something he'd never done before. He took a risk. A friend of his told him about this love workshop that was coming through town. That was our workshop. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to try it. I've never done anything like it. I've tried all kinds of other things, but never this. So I'm going to give it a shot. So he came by himself to our workshop. And in the workshop, he was sitting there thinking, as we were going through the various exercises and insights, he was thinking, wow, I wonder if we had known this, me and Laura, maybe we wouldn't have had to split up at all. And he was so hopeful after the workshop that he actually went back to Laura and said, is there any chance you would be willing to come to this love workshop with me that I found next time they come through town? And she agreed. And she had a similar experience coming to the workshop with him the next time, which was, wow, maybe it's not too late. Maybe we don't have to split up. Maybe there is a way that we can see each other with fresh eyes, which is exactly what they started doing. Basically, they got clear about, well, here is where we want to go. So let's just go directly for that and see each other with fresh eyes, and which has this love that, was in the background somewhere. Has it blossom or fall in love again?
So what Mary and Mark and Laura and Machen kind of have in common is this, really what they learned from us is how to quit talking about their problems all the time. And one of the ways we talk about it is, and I got to see this in my previous relationships that weren't working, where if I just kept bringing up what I didn't like and what the problem was and what I thought my partner should be doing differently, that they would somehow get the message and change. And we kind of called this process, this way of dealing with relationship issues, we call it complaining for change. Like there's really this idea that if I just keep saying what I don't like and what I don't want and how I want it to be different and what is dissatisfying to me, that if I say it enough and I say it enough creative ways, then somehow that is going to produce change.
But it always sounds like some version of complaining, finger pointing, blaming. So it ends up, even though there's a different intention, there's a positive intention, it just ends up making my problems bigger when I go about problem solving that way.
Not only that, but the talking about the problems begins to be the problem also, begins to contribute to the problem, because now we're spending so much time processing, we're spending so much time fighting, we're spending less time being intimate, less time having fun, less time enjoying each other, less time in love, that we can't actually have what it is we want. The other problem with this way of approaching fixing or improving a relationship is all of our focus is on what we don't like. And you might have heard this whole saying that what we focus in on is what we get more of. So when our focus is on our problems, we tend to see more of the problems and we tend to filter out and not even notice all the places in our relationship that we love, that we like, and are working.
Right. And, another thing is, like Sonika mentioned, that the problem solving often becomes like the major thing between us. And it just affects the mood in the whole house, or, if you don't live together in your relationship. And if you're by yourself, it just kills the mood in your mind. It sours the mood of your own insights or of your relationship, which affects everything. All of a sudden, it's like it's tainting everything that's going on. Another thing that constant trying to problem solve does is it keeps us in reaction. So all I'm doing is I'm seeing these things that I don't like and I react to them. It's like I push on them or try to fight against them, which keeps me from creatively going for what I want. Those are like opposite. You can say those are opposite things, reacting or creating. I'm either reacting to something I don't want, or I'm proactively creating something I do want.
And reacting against what I don't want, again, keeps my focus and my attention on what I don't like and what I don't want. And it keeps me feeling powerless. Reaction is a state of powerlessness. Creation is a state of powerfulness, right? It's like I'm stepping into creating what I want. And that's a place where I feel power. So when we're in talking about problem, we're looking for who to blame. We're in that complaining place where we're just focusing in on what we don't like and what isn't working and what we want to change. It just reinforces us feeling powerless, stuck, and lonely, disconnected.
And of course, it doesn't actually solve our problems. And how you know that's a true statement is you've been through that process many times in your life. You know, if you're older than 11 years old, you've tried problem solving like this and talking your way, talking about what's wrong. And if that was a great strategy, it would have solved all of your problems by now. And you know, we all know that's not the case. So we just don't get the result we're after. And you know, bottom line is we're trying to get back to a place where we are falling in love, right? Where there's intimacy and connection. And this kind of problem solving, it just doesn't reinstate our intimacy and connection. Again, why you know that's a true statement is you've already been through trying to do it that way. So why is it then that we often find ourselves doing just that? Rehashing the past, bringing up all those things that didn't work before, and you know, trying to assign blame or pointing fingers.
Really, we hope and we believe, like we've been trained to think that that is what is going to solve the issue and bring us back to connection and intimacy. We all believe that if we just say it enough and talk about it enough, it will change, unaware that we're actually making it worse the whole time we're doing it. The other thing, and it really is kind of this sweet positive intent actually, is when we complain and when we blame, when we criticize, we are trying to find our power. It's really a kind of a back-ended or ineffective attempt at us to find our power, to get our power back, to find that creative place of resolution and restoring our relationships, having us feel in love again. And unfortunately, as you know, when you're the one being blamed, right? When you're the one being criticized or being, complained at, it doesn't do anything to have you feel more close and connected and in love with your partner.
Yeah, another reason we do this, which, let's just be honest with ourselves. And I know I've certainly done this many times in my life before I learned a new way. Frankly, it just feels better to blame you for it than for me to look inside and think, yeah, I wonder how I had something to do with this. Maybe it's all not just you. It's easier and it feels a little bit better, a little bit more powerful also, like the previous bullet says, just to blame you than for me to look inside and take responsibility.
Well, the other thing I would say too is that we don't really even know what that means to take responsibility. Like a lot of times I think people confuse responsibility with self-blame, like, oh my god, I'm at fault and it's like I'm just a poor relationship picker, or I'm always choosing losers and I can't make anything happen. So taking responsibility looks like it's my fault, or blaming you, it's your fault. And it's a lot easier for me to think it's your fault than it is for me to really confront my own powerlessness. But when you really look at what responsibility is and what that means, there is a place where responsibility really reconnects you with your power and your ability to create what you want going forward. One of our favorite ways, we actually say there's 3 ways to take responsibility. And one of our favorite ways to take responsibility is to look at how you can use whatever is showing up in your life to bring in more love, more joy, more connection, more power? How can you use it to improve your relationship?
Yeah. And, lastly, why we do this is just because we have no better option or tools. What we all have in common is we know when things aren't feeling right. We know when things aren't feeling good. We know when we're not feeling in love. That part is pretty easy. So we try just our best. We try our damnedest to bring it back. And the options we do have, the tools we do have, typically don't do the job. So, and if we had better tools, we'd use them, right? But most of us, before I started learning this, I only had one tool, two maybe. One was to shut down and stop talking. And the other one was walk out the door and get mad.
Mine was to create a lot of drama and upset and to process for hours and hours and hours and get nowhere fast.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why we don't have any better options or tools, most of us, is because we have no training. We have no relationship training. I mean, it's kind of amazing to me in school. Our daughter is in high school right now. Our son already graduated. He's going to be 20 this month. And they have absolutely no communication skills in school, no relationship training skills, no conflict resolution skills. They have no social training really whatsoever. And it's sort of extraordinary to me, actually, that we expect we're going to wing it successfully in relationship. And it's kind of crazy. Like nobody would ever get in a plane and fly with a pilot who had no training, but we sort of expect ourselves to excel in relationship with no training whatsoever.
I know. It reminds me of, we had a friend over yesterday who came over with his 3-year-old son. And he was telling us this story of, he had just gotten a phone call from a lifelong friend of his. And he was describing his friend saying, he's been married for, 15 years. They got 3 girls. I always thought they were like the perfect couple. They just look so happy. And he said, well, a while back, I heard that he wasn't doing so good. And I really wanted to tell him about, the workshops, because the friend who was over, him and his wife went through our workshops and totally up-leveled their marriage. So he said, I wanted to tell my friend about it, but, I never got to talk to him. And yesterday he called and said, we just both hired divorce attorneys, his friend said. We're just hiring attorneys. And our friend was saying, that's just such a bummer. If they had just a few years back taken the time to learn a different way, as opposed to just living inside this disconnection, that could have totally been turned around. They still like each other. But now what they're doing is they both hired divorce attorneys.
And so he kind of did this little joke. He's like, love works today or divorce attorney tomorrow. In 3 years, I think he said.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
And he was looking at his young child who was, 3 years old, and he's got a 6-year-old. He's like, I really wish they could somehow learn this stuff in school. And what we told him was, the best thing you can do, well, until stuff like that gets taught in school, maybe someday, is you and your wife do that. You and their mom do that, and they will live in a mood or in an environment where that is how you deal with each other, and that is what we'll teach them.
So this is another, so Paige is another woman who came to work with us. When she came to us, she was single, same thing, hadn't had a lot of relationship training. And one of the things she said is, I've done lots of therapy, but it never gave me any kinds of real solutions. And she actually was kind of in and out of a bunch of dysfunctional relationships when she first came to us. And after working at LoveWorks, learning new relationship tools, she is now married to this amazing man. And having the relationship she always dreamed of. And it came from her learning a new way of doing relationship. Now, there's another thing that's really crucial for being able to fall in love again and to have the kinds of relationships we want. And this was a really important piece for me to get in our relationship. And so that's us. Can we have them see us live here?
Yeah,
is there a way
we sure can. Ta-da!
Yay! Hi, everybody. So I want to share something that was real pivotal for us in our relationship. And essential actually for us having a successful relationship. And that was an experience we had. Actually, we were kind of sitting, you can't really see, there's a fireplace right there.
You can see the rocks behind there.
The right. And Christian was loving me so much. He was just looking me in the eyes. We were sitting in front of the stove getting all warm, and I could feel the part of me that didn't want to quite believe him. And I remember hearing this saying once, that we can only take in as much love as our self-esteem will allow. And I could feel the part of me that couldn't quite take in the depth of his love. And in every other relationship, whenever that feeling came up, I would always kind of back off and begin to criticize, begin to blame, begin to look for what's something you're doing that's having me be uncomfortable, that's having me not feel loved. And so I did something I'd never done before, which is I just kind of noticed it. And instead of acting all that out, I was aware enough to speak it. And I just said, it's kind of interesting. I notice I want to not quite believe that you love me. And I ended up having this most amazing kind of spiritual epiphany, actually. So Christian, one of the things I love about him is he doesn't react to me. So he just kind of listened and heard me. And he went over to the stereo and he put on Enya really loud. And he kind of came over and just kind of put his arms around me.
And I was sat behind her. But
yeah, I was sitting there with my eyes closed, and I had this amazing experience of all of these faces from my childhood, like people I hadn't thought of for 40 years, like were coming in face after face. Like the first one I remember was my friend in third grade who told me in third grade, broke my heart, that she wanted to be best friends with somebody else. Anyway, so her little face came in and she just said, "I loved you. I always loved you." And then her face kind of faded out. And my boyfriend in sixth grade came in, his little face, and he said, "I loved you. I always loved you." And my mom and my dad and my grandparents and my sister and my friends in high school, and like this parade of some 200 faces kept coming in, and I'm just bawling as this is happening, because I'm realizing, as all these people are coming in and saying that they loved me, that I had always been loved. And I had always not felt loved. I had always felt not good enough. I had always felt like something was missing. And I realized, as all these faces were coming in, that it wasn't that I wasn't loved, it's that I couldn't take it in all the way. And as I was sitting there with Christian and he was loving me, I realized that for me to let in his love would mean I would have to be wrong about how I wasn't enough. I'd have to be wrong about how I wasn't lovable. I'd have to be wrong about this whole idea of who I was. And I realized, for me to take in his love, I had to rewrite my whole identity, rewrite my whole story about myself. And just like this parade of faces was helping me rewrite my whole past and kind of get like, oh my God, I was lovable the whole time. And just like I was lovable the whole time, like I'm lovable here. And this realization that for me to have this loving relationship meant I had to be wrong about all of these beliefs. And if you think about it, when we are miserable in relationship, we have a whole bunch of negative beliefs that were running in the background that we're hoping are wrong, but we're also kind of fighting to be right about them at the same time. So Christian and I have a new goal right now, which is that we're going for being wrong as much as we can, for as many negative beliefs as we can. And it's a crucial piece for being successful in a relationship. And if you think about it, when we're complaining and we're fighting and we're talking about our problems all the time, there's some part of us that in our complaint, we're sort of fighting to be right about how you really aren't listening, and you really aren't enough, and you really aren't present enough, and you really aren't available, and you really aren't committing, and you know, whatever they mean.
No, we end up locking the problem in place. Like we just lock it up right there.
And it's reinforced by all of these negative beliefs that we're kind of holding, that we're running and kind of keeping them held in place. And what keeps us there as we keep reacting to it is not being aware of where we're headed and what we want to create and where we're going, and a willingness to be wrong. And really, that is what all of our work is about, is once we're willing to be wrong about all those negative stories, right? And once we're clear about where we're headed, then we can actually go where we want to go.
Yeah. And, you know, this sign on that you're seeing on the slide, it's one of our friends hung that up in its office recently. It says change takes change. Another way I heard that said is, if you want to be different, you got to be different. And you know what the story Sonika just told about being willing to be wrong, and you know what all the stories we've told you so far have in common about Paige or Mark and Mary or Machen and Laura, what they all had in common is they were willing to be wrong about what they had been, you know, the problems they had been kind of locking in place up till now. They were willing to begin to look forward as opposed to looking backwards in their past. They were willing to get clear in a new way about, okay, what is it we really, 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 truly want in our hearts, and go uncompromisingly and proactively for that. And they were all willing to do something different. Like none of the people that we've shared with you had come to a workshop like ours before. They tried coaching, they tried therapy, they tried counseling, but none of them had put themselves in an environment like that. That's totally different. It's totally different than sitting in an office with somebody. It's totally different than you by yourself or you with your partner talking it out at home. There's something, you know, I once heard somebody say, environment is stronger than intention. Environment is stronger than intention. So that means the environment that you have created and that is normal for you is stronger. So if you have, let's say you have habits of how you interact with each other, like complaining and rehashing the past and finger pointing, that aren't very successful, but you've been practicing them for a while, you could say that's the environment you've created, for better or worse. As long as you stay in that environment, it's very likely that that environment is going to be stronger than any new intention you have to say, hey, we like to have more intimacy. We'd like it to be better. We like to not fight so more. Because as long as you stay in that same environment, it's going to win out.
We also can't do what we don't know. We can't change if we don't have something to change it to. Like that really is, I think, why we have community, why we have teachers, why we have mentors, why we have coaches, why we have other people in life, is to point the way, like kind of show what are they doing that's working that we can glean from, take on and use and implement. We can't think anything new all by ourselves. We can't take on new practices if we don't have something new to practice. We've got to have exposure to something new.
It's kind of like if we're, if I have a kitchen that only has salt and pepper in it and I'm bored with how my food tastes, there's only so much I can do with salt and pepper. If I want something totally different, I got to get more spices, more flavor, more condiments, more materials in here, or there's only so much that's going to happen with just salt and pepper, So change takes change. And that is one of the things that all the people and ourselves have in common, is we've been willing to take an uncommon step that we haven't tried before. So here, before we want to tell you about, like we said in the beginning, we want to tell you about the last couple we want to share with you that turned an absolute marriage disaster into a sexy love story that's still going on. Before we do that, we'd love to tell you about this workshop that we've been, that the other people have come to. It's called Give Yourself to Love. And instead of us talking to you a lot about that, we'd like to show you a video that it only takes a couple of minutes of other people who have come to this workshop, so you can hear it straight from them. And you're probably going to see there might be a little wait time on your screen here before it actually plays, but we'll get it started here and you'll see. And then after the video is over in a couple of minutes, you might see a little lag on your screen. That's just how this webinar software acts before we're back on, but we'll be right back with you here.
I felt like my marriage had gotten away from me and that there wasn't a chance for us to come back together.
We get stuck for days sometimes and just be upset with each other and angry with each other. And
it felt like our relationship was flatlining.
It was terrible, and it went on for years, and we were both hanging in there, just trying to make things work and thinking, eventually this is going to change. And it wasn't changing.
Though I would consider what we had at that time to have been good in terms of not being a bad relationship, there were still entire days where we would be completely disconnected or have a problem come up and unable to lovingly resolve it and create distance between us and pain between us.
We hit a really intense point in our relationship, and it was pretty much that time when we were going to call it. And I had all of my stuff in a pile in the garage, and I was pretty much just going to get in the car and go. And we kind of pumped the brakes, and Jennifer picked up the phone and she called the phone number that we had for Sonika and Christian, and luckily Christian answered and just told us, just make it to the next Give Yourself to Love, which is the workshop that they do.
I've done plenty of different kinds of therapy, counseling, etc., but it never really gave me any kind of solutions. And when I went to that first LoveWorks workshop, it was just life-changing. It was mind-blowing. I cried the whole entire weekend because it was just so much emotion poured out, and it just resonated with me so deeply.
Over the couple of days was just a lot of hope that we could go deeper and work on our relationships and still have a good time.
it completely shifted how I understand relationship, how I understand relating, and where the problems came from and my responsibility in it all.
We went from being separated to a place of this deep connection and seeing him through fresh eyes.
Our life has just been so much more peaceful. We don't fight anymore.
Something that's like bugging one of us would be like, oh no, you didn't.
And we can laugh about it, and it draws us even closer together.
I feel more part of the relationship, that I get to add stuff to it and bring stuff to it, where before, I don't know, I just didn't have the tools to be able to communicate with her what my needs were.
Before, I mean, our lovemaking was pretty good, but now, wow.
Years and years and years and years of tension and not being able to work it out, and that is all smoothed out, which is kind of a miracle.
And now we have a bun in the oven, 6 months now.
We're partners and lovers, not just roommates who go about our day-to-day business.
So be careful if you're going to sign up for LoveWorks. Careful of the spark.
And we are back. So we want to tell you about the next options there are for attending this workshop, in case you're interested in jumping into something different. Before we tell you about our last couple here, slideshow forward. The weekend we're talking about is called the Give Yourself to Love. It's a 2-day weekend experience. And we like to think of it as a good way to get away. It's a retreat and get out of your box. The next options for when and where, we're all in Northern California. One is in Corte Madera, which is actually this very weekend, if you're ready to jump into something right now. It's happening this weekend in Corte Madera. That's in the North San Francisco Bay area out here in California.
With a big Olympic-sized swimming pool.
I know they've got the best heated swimming pool in the middle of winter here. And the next one is in Auburn, which is up in the Sierra Nevada foothills, May 5, 6. Also a really beautiful area for a getaway. Lots of rivers and wineries, and it's the endurance capital, they call it. Auburn calls itself, because that's where the endurance runs take place. We'd like to offer you a gift, like a little extra thank you if you're up for going for this. If you register by midnight tonight, so tonight is right now is about 7:15 Pacific Standard Time. If you register before midnight, we'll give you this great audio presentation that we made for a paid course for another nonprofit organization called the Mankind Project. It's called "What's Your Purpose in Relationship?" And it makes a powerful connection between the purpose you have in your life, in your heart, and how does that go together with your intimate relationships.
And how essential is that actually too, getting clear what your purpose is for creating what you want, instead of by default creating what you don't want.
Yes.
Without direction and clarity about where you're headed.
Very much so. And the other thing we'll offer to you as an extra gift here, if you register by midnight tonight, is a half-hour private coaching session with either Sonika or myself that can take place over the phone or on Skype. And you get to dive in deep and get our expertise. And we have a lot of experience with this area for half an hour, in which lots can be accomplished.
It's a half hour, not a half core.
Is that
a little spelling error there.
Oh, is that what I said?
Yeah.
Oops.
It's totally fine.
And here I'll load up on your screen here in a second. You'll see you'll have actually there's a link for you to click right there on your screen, depending on what device you're using. Give Yourself to Love Relationship Transformation. I forgot to tell you the price, of course, that you're probably interested in that. You can save $700 in the next 24 hours. It's normally $997, but for the next 24 hours, it is only $297 per person to come hang out with us for 2 whole days. So it's a whole Saturday and a whole Sunday, 9 to 7 both days. And you get like 18 to 20 hours of coaching, education, and fun. You'll see that's one of the things that are different, that you're actually going to have a good time. It's very lighthearted. It's a different kind of environment. It doesn't have the same, sometimes we know for a lot of people that looking into relationships can be kind of intense. It ain't like that.
It's not like that.
No,
and it's for singles and couples. Singles work with each other. Couples come. And I'll tell you, we have had so many singles leave with increased hope for creating future relationships. And we've had many couples come and whisper in our ear at the end, like, "Thank you for saving my marriage." I remember one guy came all the way from, I think it was Texas. He said, "I had to come all the way from Texas to have my wife look at me like that again."
I know.
So for a lot of people, it is the difference between making or breaking a relationship. We have a lot of people come as their both their last ditch effort, like, okay, we're like, we're doing this or we're not doing this. And we also have people actually who come who just want to improve their relationship and make it better.
Yeah. And here I put it up on the screen too, in case you're not seeing, the little box with the blue button that says, "I'm ready, let's do it." You can also just go to that website we put up on the screen there, bit.ly/GYTL deal. And it'll say on that website too, you can use the coupon code WEBMAR18. And that is going to be valid for the next 24 hours. And you can come join us either in Corte Madera this very weekend. We're actually going to leave we're going to leave ourselves tomorrow morning to go there. Or in Auburn, first weekend of Auburn, up in the Sierra Nevada foothills.
And I'll just say too, we've had people who are as young as 18 attend this course and as old as 85, I think.
I think like 83 or 4 or 5 has been our oldest.
In fact, our son just came to our last weekend with his girlfriend, and it was just so amazing to be able to pass on to our children. We've actually had a lot of parents send their kids. We've had a lot of kids send their parents because we really give you practical tools that you can put to use right away to turn your relationship around for the better.
I know. When you come, it's one of those experiences where you're going to tell yourself or your partner, wow, I wish I could have done that when I was 18 before I jumped into the world of relationships myself.
Yeah, we call it Give Yourself to Love because we really teach you in this course how to go for creating the love you want. Instead of pushing away inadvertently by getting stuck in complaint and blame and criticism and dissatisfaction, how to get out of reacting all of the time, processing forever, is instead, how do you get in touch with what you really want so you can go for it and recurrently create that in your life? And I'll tell you, we have a lot of people who leave the course feeling like they have opened themselves up to love again, where before they were feeling pretty shut down.
Yeah, here. So now we want to tell you about the last couple we said we'd talk about. So this couple came to us from the East Coast. They flew all the way out here to our workshop, and absolute last ditch effort. They actually had to, I think they made like a fundraiser campaign amongst their friends so they could actually afford the plane ticket and come out and attend this workshop. And they'd been married for 20 years, and like for 10 years, they hadn't even touched each other physically, and had talked and argued every possible problem to death. And inside a pretty brief period, like they came to our workshop, they did a few more, and inside a period of 2-3 months, but starting at the very first workshop, this Give Yourself to Love workshop,
they just left so high. They left that first workshop so high and so happy and so on fire and so committed, because they were like, oh my God, we can totally create a whole other relationship. We can totally create ourselves to be completely different. And so they took all the money that they had earmarked for divorce and instead invested in doing work to really turn their relation. And they have the best sex life right now, better than they've ever had. They actually sent one of their sons out from Minnesota to do the workshop, same one that our son was at last 2 months ago. And they are completely different human beings.
And I'll tell you, of the many changes that they made, putting themselves into this new and different environment, I'll tell you the two really important changes that they made, and hopefully that'll inspire you. Is one, they decided to stop talking about their problems. That was one thing. And the second thing is they decided to just uncompromisingly look ahead. Just look ahead now, and to go directly for what they wanted.
Which we gave them the tools to do.
And we put, in this workshop environment, you get to not just learn the how-tos, you get to actually do it. Like you get to just do it right there in kind of different and fun ways that you would have just never made up on your own. And as we talked about earlier in the webinar here, one of the things we end up doing traditional problem solving and complaining for change and keeping the problem stuck in front of us, in the hopes that it's going to reinstate our intimacy. But it doesn't. And really when we want intimacy and connection, the key to that is not sophisticated problem solving. The key to intimacy and connection is intimacy and connection, and going directly for that. And in this environment they've got in, we set them up with, I haven't even counted it, maybe 20 or 30 different ways in which to go directly into intimacy, directly into connection, which is totally doable.
Yeah, we actually say love is something you can learn how to do so that you can recreate that experience anytime. And I'll tell you, when you learn how to step into love, when you do tackle the issues in your relationship, most of them, first of all, just disappear altogether, because a lot of the issues and problems that we have is that we aren't feeling love. So when we learn how to feel love, a good bunch of them just disappear. And then the other ones are so much easier to deal with inside a frame of love, inside a frame of connection. It's very, very powerful. And we really do give you practical tools for how to create what you want, so you go out of there with something to do that has you feel powerful, resourceful, hopeful, and alight and on fire like this couple did.
Yeah. So, hey, we hope you're up for taking a chance, doing something different. Change takes change. So change it up and We'd love to play with you at our Give Yourself to Love training, either this very weekend, if you're game for jumping right in, or perhaps next time in Auburn, first weekend of May.
And you're also welcome to contact us if you have any questions or want more information. We're really aware, especially if you're new to us, it can be like, well, who are these people?
Yeah, for sure.
And I will just say we take good care of our clients. We will take very, very good care of you. And we can even give you people to talk to if you would like other resources, other testimonials, and we're happy to answer your questions. So feel free to contact us tonight as well if you have any questions or concerns. 530-878-3893. Or you can also go to our website, loveworksforyou.com.
We'll be sending you. You've already gotten emails about the webinar here, and you'll get another thank you email afterwards. So totally respond to those. And if you're game for the offer here, it's good for the next 24 hours. And we'll end with a little quote here.
This is one of my favorite quotes. It's perfect for this. The only way that we can live is if we grow. The only way that we can grow is if we change. The only way that we can change is if we learn. The only way we can learn is if we are exposed. And the only way that we can become exposed is if we throw ourselves out into the open. Do it. Throw yourself. We hope you will throw yourself into our course. And thank you very much for throwing yourself here into this webinar and hanging out with us here for this hour.
I know. We appreciate you and we wish you all the best. We hope to see you in person, but even if we don't, best of luck and love on your journey. And we hope to see you again one of these days.
And again, feel free to call us if you have any questions or concerns.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.